Welcome to Upleveling, the podcast dedicated to building better leaders, smarter systems, and bigger results. If you're in a season where you're making a lot of changes to your business and it feels really uncomfortable because maybe not everybody's excited about those changes, this episode is for you. So if you guys are curious where my episode ideas come from, they are usually based around what I have either already went through or are currently going through. So this episode's going to hit home for me because this is what happens when you grow a business and you start to make changes. If you're trying to up level, whether that's raising prices, raising your standards, raising your expectations, other people will resist this. And it's not a sign that you're doing anything wrong, but I want you to be prepared for the uncomfortable feeling and what you're going to experience. So the first example I want to give you is your legacy clients or customers that you have always had are not always going to be excited or open to changes in your business. So whether that's you're changing your process or you're creating different boundaries, maybe you're standardizing how you deliver your service, or maybe you're just going to stop over delivering for free. Your new clients might love that because they don't know any different, but your legacy clients, they're not always going to love that. So I had a conversation with a client a couple of months back that had been with me or is still with me for 10 plus years. And it was just a really candid conversation about things that she wasn't happy about. And I completely understood where she was coming from. But at the same time, it really all revolved around changes I had made in the firm. And she did not have like the access to me that she had in the past. She, there were boundary things there with like sending text or, and sending text on my personal phone. And so just kind of things that I've changed along the way because you have to change them if you want to grow and scale. You can't keep operating the same way. And it had become like a pain for her. And she felt like I wasn't delivering the same service as I always had, which was absolutely true. I was delivering a different service, but you have to know that if you start small, you tend to really over deliver for clients, which can be a good thing. But what happens is as you grow and you start to change and you level off where you're not over delivering, but you are delivering the service that the client or the customer is paying for, they're going to feel like you're under delivering. And that, I won't say that caught me off guard, but it is definitely a friction point in my business because legacy clients don't love all of the changes I've made. They want the old version of me. They want me to be readily available or even underpriced, or they want to text me anytime. But like I said, that version is not scalable. Like I can't grow a business and a firm that's going to support that level of growth because I need my own sanity. So keep that in mind that people don't resist improvement, but they're going to resist losing the version of you that benefited them most. Next, let's talk about changing how you manage employees. This is really hard, but if you start having real one-on-ones or you start setting clear expectations and documenting processes and how work is getting done, or you're measuring the output, some of your team members are going to feel really uncomfortable because they're used to just winging it. They're used to you not saying anything. And maybe they like having no accountability or very vague expectations. What that really means is they like coasting. And sometimes that also means that you are giving emotional leadership instead of structured leadership. And when you start to introduce KPIs and metrics and targets, they're going to see you as being mean or being, I don't even know another way to put it. Unkind is probably a good way. But really, you're just being clear. You're being clear on the expectations of the role. And if you want to grow a business, you have to get clear on the role, not necessarily on the person. When you're small, you can manage and lead a person. And you can have people with different expectations or maybe different output, and it's okay. But once you start to grow a business, things have to be scalable, and you have to start to develop a role and lead that role. And so it becomes less about a person and more about a role. It's the same thing with if you're having problems with managing an employee now, you have to ask yourself the question, like, are they under delivering in the role? Like, is this a people problem or is this a process problem? Because you'll start to figure out leadership's going to become easier for you if you have very defined roles and expectations and you're not just winging it because there's only a couple of you. So I just want you to be prepared that you're going to have friction with your existing employees as you start to build in some of these things that are going to help you scale and help you grow. So if you're starting to build in KPIs now where they're going to have clear metrics, or you're starting to track time, or you're starting to document processes that you're going to hold them accountable to, there's going to be friction. And sometimes it really hurts, but that means the wrong people show themselves out. But my goal for you is to know that this is going to be uncomfortable and this is going to be really hard and you're going to have turnover. I know we think that, oh, people are with us and they love us, but if you start to mess with their role and how they're showing up at work, they may just exit the role. And I want you to be prepared for that because you also need to be strategic and you need to know that the moment you start measuring something, it can't be optional anymore. You need to do something with that data. And so if you're setting clear metrics with employees and they're not meeting those metrics, you have to be willing to do something about it. That is leadership. So the next friction area, which sometimes is the hardest, is pricing changes. Because when you start to raise prices, you're going to have clients that leave, you're going to have clients that complain, and you may even feel guilty about it. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that you need to be competitive with your pricing. You need to make sure you're delivering value for your pricing, and you can't underprice for that value. Because the truth that if you're doing that, what that means is you're going to get burned out and you are not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be able to scale because undercharging is going to train your clients to the value at that level. So just know that once you start to increase pricing, especially if you've been underpriced, just know that some clients are going to leave and that is okay. You are making room for the right clients to come on board. You're going to start changing your positioning in the marketplace. You're going to change the clients that you are attracting. And the bottom line is you're going to change what you're willing to tolerate. And so those are all really good things, but you can only have that outcome if you do the first step of changing your pricing. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to run out and change pricing, but you know if you're already underpricing or not. And if that is you, you have got to make a change. Like I said, if not, you're going to burn yourself out or you're going to burn your employees out and they're going to leave because you're not going to be able to afford to give them raises that they may deserve. And so pricing affects a lot of things in your business. And just know it is going to cause friction when you raise prices. It is going to be uncomfortable, but it is necessary. That's the bottom line. Let's talk about personal growth friction. This one I think is the least likely on our list that we think might happen. Like, who has ever thought, oh, I'm going to up-level myself and other people aren't going to be happy about that? That was never a thought that crossed my mind. But it gets deeper than that. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to protect your time and you're going to stop overcommitting to things, you're going to say no more often. Maybe it's personal things like you're going to stop drinking or you're going to start working out. Maybe you're going to take up reading. You're going to have to change your friend group. You're going to get more confident and you're going to speak up more. Some people aren't going to like that. And the reason is your old identity fit very comfortably inside their world. But if you're going to change, you're going to disrupt some of that. And not everyone is going to benefit from the new you. And that's hard. That is not anything I expected, mainly because it just was never anything I thought about. But it's true. You know, if you used to hang out all the time and drink on weekdays and weekends, you know, nothing against that. Like, you do you. But if you're going to up level your business and you're going to grow and you want to get a lot of brain power back, some of those habits are going to have to change. And so some of your old friendships might change as well. And like I said, it just wasn't ever anything I thought about or had crossed my mind. So I want you guys to know that it's going to be uncomfortable for people around you because they're just not used to that. And you need to give them time to adjust, or you need to find new circles. Now, don't go out and ditch all your friends. That's not what I'm saying. But just expect that to happen. Or, you know, we all have those people in our lives that maybe don't bring out the best in us. And at this level, this is where you're going to have to let that go. Because if you want to grow a business, you want to get serious about it, and you want to scale, you're going to need the best of you all the time. With all of these examples, I just want you to expect that there's going to be friction. Because if you're going to grow your revenue, your team, you're going to make changes, you're going to be a better leader, you're going to grow your confidence, you're going to grow your standards, you must grow for your tolerance of friction. And that's usually what I want you to understand is a lot of times that's the point that most people quit because they run into friction or they become really uncomfortable. Things become harder and people quit because they're not used to that level. I just want you to frame around it that this is just friction or this is just static. And if you know to expect this, you can work through it. And so that's really my whole point in bringing all of this up is if you up level, you're going to experience friction. If you expect everyone to clap while you're up leveling, you're going to shrink yourself to stay liked because people don't always want us to win. And I know that's hard, but shrinking is the opposite of leadership. And so you cannot shrink to your old ways. You have to be serious about growth and you have to get comfortable being misunderstood. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable because that is mature leadership. That is the difference of where you were or where you are and where you're going. You have to work through the friction and be uncomfortable. I don't think I can say that any more times. But really, at the end of the day, this isn't about me being harsh, and this isn't about bulldozing people or about egos. It's really just about making sure that you know that these things are going to happen and that you have got to hold your boundaries. You've got to start communicating very clearly and having clear expectations. You've got to stay aligned with your goals. and how you're going to handle pushback from people in your life, whether that's clients or family or friends. But I want you to expect that this is going to come, and you don't think that you need to fight with everyone, or you need to start defending all of your decisions, or that you have to convince people of what you're doing. You just have to stay steady. You have to set the goal and commit to it. Your job's not to drag everybody with you. It's just to hold the next level enough so that the right people can rise up around you. If you're in the middle of change right now and it feels uncomfortable, that discomfort doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means that you're moving in the right direction. It means that you're growing. And growth always comes with friction. So this is also, I talk a lot about reflection, and I 100% think that reflection and my ability to reflect back on myself is what has allowed me to continue to grow and to up-level in my leadership. Because when you can sit down at the end of the week and you reflect back on what happened, what you would have liked to have happened, or how things could have been better, or how you did things well, that's where you start to learn leadership. And that reflection, I want you to do the same thing through these things as you're starting to grow. I want you to reflect on the friction that you're feeling and ask yourself, are these things in line with my goals and where I'm going? Or am I feeling friction because I'm out of alignment? Like, those are two very different feelings. And you'll know if you take the time to kind of sit in the quietness and reflect on what's happening, you'll know if all of this uncomfortableness that you're feeling, is it because you're up leveling? Most of the time it is. And so I just want you to remember, as you're going through this, up leveling isn't about everyone approving of you. It's about you becoming who your next stage requires. Thanks for tuning in to Upleveling. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more entrepreneurs like you discover the show. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit aligncpa.com for resources and updates. Until next time, keep leading, optimizing, and upleveling.